The sirens screamed in my ears, red and blue lights painting the world in frantic flashes as the ambulance tore through the night. My chest rose and fell in shallow gasps, every breath like swallowing knives, the oxygen mask pressed against my face, and still, it felt like I was drowning on dry land. I could hear the paramedics above me, voices sharp, urgent, the metallic clang of equipment snapping into place. One of them leaned close, his face etched with concentration. "Stay with us, ma'am. Focus on the sound of my voice. Don't let go." I wanted to tell him I was trying. God, I was trying. But then another sound cut through the chaos, a voice I knew too well. My mother, cold, sharp. "She doesn't need that. Take it off." Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. My eyes fluttered open, blurry shapes sharpening into my parents at the far end of the ambulance. They weren't supposed to be there, and yet they were, dressed too neatly for the emergency, my father's tie still knotted perfectly, my mother's lipstick unbothered by concern. "Ma'am," the doctor snapped, "your daughter is in critical condition. The oxygen is keeping her stable." "Stable?" My father scoffed, his voice loud enough to rattle the walls. "You're wasting resources. She's useless. Always has been. Let her go." My lungs burned as though his words had sucked the air straight out of me. The paramedic adjusted the mask, his eyes flashing with fury. "Sir, if you interfere again, I'll have security remove you." But my parents didn't stop. My mother leaned in, her perfume choking me more than the illness did. "She's been nothing but a burden since the day she was born. If she dies here, maybe we'll all finally be free." The words sliced deeper than the oxygen mask pressing into my skin. I tried to lift my hand to fight back, but it was like pushing against water. My children, Hannah, 7, and Michael, 5, flashed through my mind, their faces glowing with worry. If I died here, who would fight for them? Who would keep them safe from the same monsters arguing over my corpse in waiting? The paramedic's voice cut sharp. "Ignore them. Focus on me. We'll get you there." The sirens wailed louder. The ambulance jolted over a pothole and my vision swam. My parents' voices still drilled into me. Mom's shrill laughter. Dad's cruel bark. "She's useless anyway. Let her die and be done with it." And yet, through the noise, through the pain, something flickered inside me. A spark, a whisper that hissed louder than their cruelty. Not this time. Not like this. I closed my eyes, forcing air into my lungs, forcing life back into veins they wanted empty. If I survived this night, and I would, then my parents were going to learn what useless truly looked like. Because I wasn't the one gasping for worth anymore. They were. When I opened my eyes again, it wasn't the flashing lights of the ambulance anymore, but the cold white glare of a hospital ceiling. The air smelled of disinfectant, my throat was raw, and the oxygen mask was still pressed against my face. I drew a shaky breath, grateful for the air, but the gratitude was drowned by the memory of what I had heard. "Let her die. She's useless anyway." The words looped like a broken record. My parents weren't whispering them in the heat of anger. They had spoken them as if they were fact, a truth they'd carried for years. A nurse noticed me stirring. She leaned over, kind eyes searching mine. "Don't move too much yet. You gave us a scare. You're stable now." Stable. That word felt foreign. I'd been unstable all my life under them. Unstable in love, unstable in safety, unstable in belonging. My parents didn't create stability. They shattered it. I croaked. Where are they?" Her jaw tightened. "Your parents?" I nodded weakly. "They caused such a scene in the ambulance that security had them removed from the ER. They didn't wait to see you admitted. They left." The nurse's tone held no pity for them, only disgust. She patted my shoulder. "They don't deserve you." For a moment, tears stung my eyes. Not because I was heartbroken. They had broken me too many times for that, but because a stranger's words, brief and simple, meant more than decades of anything my parents had ever said. The next few days were recovery. Tubes, IV drips, bland food, doctors adjusting machines while my children visited, their small faces pale with fear. Hannah crawled onto the bed, clutching my hand. "Mommy, Grandma said you were too weak to live. That's not true, right?" Her voice cracked, and my heart did too. I forced myself to smile, stroking her hair. "It's not true, baby. I'm here. I'll always be here." Michael frowned, fists clenched. "Grandpa told me you'd give up like trash, but you didn't." I pulled both of them close, my chest burning with something stronger than pain. Rage. How dare they poison my children's minds the way they'd poisoned mine? How dare they stand in the same room as my kids and try to turn them against me? The doctors wanted me to rest, but rest wasn't an option. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Mom's shrill laugh, Dad's cruel voice echoing through the ambulance. They didn't just want me gone, they wanted my children to believe I was worthless. When I was discharged, I didn't go home to collapse in bed. I went home to plan. I started with conversations. Neighbors had heard pieces of the ambulance scene. Rumors spread fast in our small town. People had seen my parents storming out of the ER, shouting about me being a burden. Even strangers were disgusted. One cashier at the grocery store whispered, "You're the woman they tried to kill in the ambulance, aren't you? Everyone's talking about it." At first, I wanted to shrink away, but then I realized their own arrogance had done the work for me. They couldn't shut their mouths, couldn't hide their disdain, and now the world knew. Still, gossip wasn't enough. They had always relied on reputation, on manipulation, on making themselves the polished couple everyone admired. If I wanted real revenge, I had to take what they valued most and drag it into the dirt. The opportunity came faster than I expected. My parents were hosting a fundraiser gala, for charity, of course, but really, it was a parade for themselves. Invitations had gone out to every business owner, politician, and socialite within 50 miles. Mom had even bragged to Lindsay, my sister, about the designer gown she was going to wear, shimmering proof of her hard-earned success. They thought the night would be theirs. I decided it would be mine. For weeks, I gathered everything: medical records, ambulance reports, statements from the paramedics who'd been there when they demanded the mask be removed. One paramedic, a man named David, had looked me in the eye and said, "If you want me to testify, I'll do it. I've never seen anything like it. Parents begging us to let their daughter suffocate." His words, on paper and signed, became my weapon. And then I went further. I spoke to people they had hurt in the past, extended family they'd cut off, neighbors they'd manipulated, employers they'd lied to. I gathered a quiet army of witnesses, all holding scraps of truth. Alone, they were whispers. Together, they were a roar. The night of the gala, I didn't sneak in. I walked in through the front door, Hannah and Michael at my side, heads held high. Gasps followed me, eyes widened, murmurs spread. My parents froze when they saw me, their perfect smiles cracking. I looked around at the glittering crowd, the chandeliers, the polished marble floors. This was their kingdom, and tonight I would burn it down without a single flame. The chandeliers glimmered above as I stepped into the gala, their light bouncing off polished marble and glittering gowns. Laughter swirled with the clinking of glasses, the room thick with perfume and false charm. My parents were at the center of it all, Mom in a silver gown that sparkled like she was royalty, Dad in his sharp tuxedo shaking hands with men twice as smug as him, Lindsay glued to their side like a prized jewel. The moment they saw me, their smiles faltered. Mom's hand froze mid-wave, Dad's jaw tightened. Lindsay hissed, "What is she doing here?" I didn't flinch. I walked through the crowd with Hannah and Michael at my side. Their small hands clutched mine, their wide eyes scanning the opulence. The whispers began instantly. "That's their daughter, isn't it? The one from the ambulance? She almost died and they tried to stop treatment?" Dad tried to recover, booming laughter echoing. "Ah, our daughter. We're so glad she could join us. Everyone, family first, right?" Mom chimed in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "She exaggerates sometimes, but we love her dearly." The crowd's murmurs sharpened. I could feel the tension building like dry wood waiting for a spark. So I lit the match. I stepped forward, my voice clear. "Love, you call begging the paramedics to remove my oxygen mask, love? You call screaming to let her die, she's useless anyway, in an ambulance, love?" Gasps tore through the room. Eyes turned, conversations halted. My parents went pale. Dad barked, "She's lying, don't listen to her." But I pulled out the folder I had prepared. Not lying, documented. I handed the first sheet to the nearest guest, a signed statement from the paramedic, David. The man who saved my life wrote this. He heard every word, and so did half the ER staff when you stormed in shouting that I was a waste of air. The crowd shifted, shock curdling into disgust. People pulled back from my parents, their fake charm evaporating under the weight of truth. Mom stammered, clutching her pearls. "We were upset. We didn't mean—" Hannah's small voice cut through the room like a blade. "Grandma said Mommy was weak and should just die. Grandpa said she's trash." Silence, heavy, unforgiving. Every pair of eyes landed on my parents then, not with admiration, but with revulsion. Lindsay looked like she wanted to sink into the floor, her perfect family image crumbling in real time. I took a deep breath and delivered the final strike. "You built this entire life on reputation, on people believing you were good, generous, admirable. But this is who you really are, people who would rather bury their daughter than face the truth. You wanted me gone? Congratulations. Tonight, you're the ones who disappear." The room erupted, not with applause, but with condemnation. Guests whispered, some openly jeering, others shaking their heads. A businessman set down his glass with a thud. "I can't work with people like you." A woman hissed, "Monsters." My parents stood frozen in the center of the storm, their faces drained, their empire of pride collapsing with every whispered word. I didn't stay to watch them drown. I took Hannah and Michael's hands and walked out into the night air. The cold breeze kissed my face, cleaner than the recycled lies of that ballroom. They had tried to suffocate me in an ambulance. Tonight, I made sure they suffocated in the one thing they couldn't escape: truth. And this time, I breathed freely. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.